if I was to tell you that there's some small to medium-sized shrubs that are almost the perfect size for most garden situations, ones that don't grow too big, and if they ever do, can be pruned back to let them come again and keep them within bounds. Ones that have beautifully patterned evergreen and semi-evergreen foliage that provides a long display period from late spring and early summer all the way through to the winter time, and ones that are continually changing during that period too. And then let me tell you that on top of that, they have little mildly fragrant flowers, and they're easy to grow and easy to look after. They attract pollinators and butterflies, and once they get established, are both heat and drought tolerant, and very important in this region, they also are not normally troubled by things like deer and rabbits. Well, right about now I hear you saying, oh yeah, go on Pinocchio, tell me another one. Well, it's true. And here in this video, I'm going to take you and show you some beautiful little shrubs like I just described that are called Abelias, and I'm going to tell you all about them so that you can enjoy them in your garden too. Now, as I hope you can see, we grow several different varieties here. These are ones that we've tested and trialed over the years, ones that we know perform very well here under our conditions in this mid-Atlantic and northeastern region. And it's exciting to know that there are new varieties available all the time. When they come in, we trial and test them too. And then the ones that we find to be the most attractive and easiest to grow, most reliable, and very importantly, ones that are going to do well in our gardens here in the region, those are the ones that we send out to our partnering garden centres. Now, if you're wondering where they are, I'm going to put the link in the description of this video and along the bottom of the screen here so that you can go along there and find the locator and then find those locations that are going to be having all of these beautiful plants there for you to go along and admire, to pick from the ones that appeal to you most, and then bring home and hopefully be able to enjoy them for many years into the future. Now, just to fill you in a little bit more, if you're new to this channel, take a little bit of time and scroll through some of the many videos that we have here in our selection. For instance, over the years we've filmed some videos on some of these other varieties too. Ones like this beautiful variety here, which is Abelia kaleidoscope. Now probably one of the most popular varieties that's widely planted and really good. We also have one that comes to mind on a variety called Mardi Gras, also an excellent variety. So rather than digging in and giving you information about them now, I'll put the link in the description of this video and along the bottom of the screen so that then you'll be able to go in afterwards, if you want to, and find out about these varieties. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to focus on Abelias is that, as you see by this bed here that we have near the busy entrance to our nursery, is that they're a really good size for us to grow in the garden. Different varieties, of course, will grow to different sizes, but in most cases they're going to be about 3, maybe 4 foot high and slightly wider rather than tall, which in most situations is a perfect size. But one of the things I love about these, that if they ever do get too big, you can literally take a pair of pruners or hedging shears and you can trim these down as hard as you like. I like to do it in the early part of the year so that then you've got the whole season to grow on and encourage then, of course, lots of fresh foliage. But in some situations, if you're really tight on space, you can trim them multiple times during the year and you'll still get a beautiful crop of attractive foliage. The other thing that I like about them too is that once they get established, they're very drought and heat tolerant. Easy to grow in a sunny or partially shaded site in an average soil as long as it's free draining. Free draining is important. And the other thing that I need to mention is that when they flower, and as you see, this one here has got lots of these very pretty little white bell-shaped flowers. They start to flower typically, depending upon where you live, in May or June, and will keep flowering continuously on through until usually into November. The flowers are fragrant. You won't really get a strong scent from individual flowers, but when you're out walking around the bed, you'll definitely detect the fragrance that comes from them. And what's interesting about these little flowers is that, first of all, they come, as I mentioned, all the time, but also they're rich in nectar, which means that things like pollinators, bees and butterflies, and even hummingbirds will come to feed on the nectar. And also what's interesting is when you look closely at the flower makeup, they have the real flowers, these little tubular flowers that belong to the honeysuckle family. But also when you look behind them, you'll see that they have what we call a calyx, a modified stem, which persists long after the flowers go over, so that even when they drop the little flowers, these calyxes are still there. And on some of the varieties, they're a bright red color and orange color, and so they show up almost like flowers for an even longer period. And the other thing that's important to mention, and we've tested this now in several different sites, and that is that normally things like deer and rabbits usually leave them alone. Now, deer are very unpredictable animals, and particularly if you have a starving, high population herd, then almost anything is fair game as far as they're concerned. But on most of our sites that we've been looking at this, we really have found that usually they'll leave them alone. So if you're having deer issues in your garden, what I'd suggest is that you perhaps try a plant or two, put it out there, see what happens, and if they leave them alone, which I think they will, then you can always go back and plant more of them. And as I mentioned, because they're such a good size, you can use these either like this one as a single specimen, or you could plant it as part of a mixed bed, because they give so much value from early part of the summer all the way through the summer and into the fall, and even during the winter in milder spots when they retain their foliage. You'll find that they really offer tremendous value. And it's the sort of plant that you can plant also, of course, in larger groups. So if you have a bank or a hillside and you want something that will give you a nice series of mounds, as you see, then this would be perfect for that. Now, if you look at the tags or visit our website, you'll see that we have them rated as a Zone 6 shrub. That means they'll grow in Zone 6, 7 and 8 without really any problem. But if you happen to come from a colder part of our region, for instance Zone 5, then you might just be able to grow these as what we describe as a dieback shrub. Kind of like butterfly bushes and crepe myrtles, you might find that the tops of the shrubs get killed down during the winter time, but the crown, particularly if you use a good deep insulating mulch like we've got here and put it in around the base of the plant before the worst of the winter, you might find that the crown stays alive, and then you're able to have them grow out and enjoy them then for the rest of the year, especially if you choose a sheltered spot, or perhaps you're able to grow them in front of a warm south or west facing wall. And incidentally, years ago I used to grow them as a very beautiful glossy leafed wall plant too. So there's another idea for you, and something that you might want to try. And as you see, our friends at Proven Winners have been very busy selecting and developing some outstanding varieties too. As you scroll down through the house here, you can see all of the different types with their different foliage colors. And on the wagon here, we pulled a few, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more detail about each of those varieties too. And the first plant I want to show you is right on the front of the wagon here. This is Mucho Gusto. And as you see, this is one that has beautiful soft green with a white edge and really nice bright stems. It tends to be a little bit more of an open grower. Here's one that will get to about 2, maybe 2.5, 3 foot high, and like the others, a little wider than it is tall. It's a sport that occurred in a garden, Sablon garden, in the Loire Valley in France, discovered by Valerie and Jean Pillard there in a garden that has been grown and enjoyed for over 5 generations. And this is a variety that, as you see, is nice and vigorous and well formed, and will put on a lovely display, whether it be a specimen in a bed or a border, in foundation plantings, good for putting under windows like most of these others if you need it, and also of course for planting in larger groups too. So this is Mucho Gusto from Proven Winners. And then there's this very striking eye-catching variety here that's called Poco Loco. Now apparently that translates to a little crazy, and I suppose that kind of goes with yours truly as well, especially when you're talking about gardening subjects. Now, one of the things about this plant is that, as you see, it's very eye-catching, but it's also vigorous and yet small and compact growing. Getting to about 2 to 3 foot again, it makes a mound, and in springtime comes out with this very eye-catching bright foliage. During the summertime, it will start to take on some green hues, and then, like quite a lot of the other ones, when we get into the cooler weather of the autumn and early winter, you'll see that the color on the foliage intensifies. Also, when you look at it closely, you'll see that the flowers are different on this one. From a distance, they look like they're a kind of lilac pink color, but when you look at them closely, you'll see that inside the tubular flower, which incidentally comes from the honeysuckle family, when you look at this tubular flower, you'll see that it's got a purple color to the inside of its throat. This is one that was raised at Spring Meadow Nurseries by Megan Mattei, their lead breeder there. She started breeding a program of Abelias in 2018, and this is one of the most eye-catching selections to come out of that breeding program. So all in all, a very eye-catching, very sturdy, compact variety that would be great for putting in as a single specimen, perhaps as a low hedge, using of course in foundation plantings too, or planting on banks and hillsides. So this is Poco Loco, a little bit crazy, but as you see, really very eye-catching and beautiful. And then take a look at this variety here. This is Tres Amigos. And this is incredible because it's got almost every color that you could think of all on the one plant. In springtime, it comes out with yellow and green and pink tinged foliage. Then, as you see, as it goes through the summer and it puts on new growth, it has this overall kind of slightly orangey pink color. And then as we get into the cold weather again, it's going to start intensifying, all on a plant that gets again about 2 to 3 foot, but this time it's going to be a little wider. This is probably going to spread out to about 4 to 5 foot, so give them a little bit more space. The flowers are different on it too, but I'm really taken by the way that it has this absolutely fabulous color, as you see from the variegated foliage, all on a tight, compact, semi-evergreen plant, and if it's in sheltered places, it will probably retain its leaves to be evergreen. It's a variety that turned up in Pistoia in Italy. Paolo Caudai there spotted it on an unnamed Abelia grandiflora, and man, what a find this is. Absolutely beautiful. All of them are worth thinking about getting and putting into your garden, but I suppose when all's said and done, this is probably one of the most striking of all of them, and that's a tough choice. Now, just to give you a little bit of historical background information, the name Abelia commemorates an English physician called Dr. Clark Abel. He was attached to the second mission, diplomatic mission, to try to establish an embassy in China. It would ultimately fail, but he was a keen naturalist, and he was in contact with Sir Joseph Banks at Kew Gardens, and he managed to secure the services of a trained botanist and gardener called James Hooper, who received the princely sum of £100 a year. And of course, Hooper's job was to help Clark Abel identify and save specimens that they were making, and if possible try to get living specimens and seeds too. They collected ferociously, got all sorts of new plants that were new to science, and when they had amassed their collection and the diplomatic mission had failed, they set out on HMS Alceste for the return journey to England. But as they sailed out, she hit a reef, began to take on water, and the cry went out to abandon ship. And poor old Clark Abel and James Hooper had the undignified experience of bobbing up and down in the ocean in rowing boats and watching the chests that contained their precious collection and living plants, including apparently one azalea that was said to be covered with so many flowers you could hardly see the leaves. All of this was brought up on deck and tipped overboard to make way to save space for the chests that contained the linens of the gentlemen. So I suppose you have to get your priorities right. Anyway, the next morning, Clark Abel returned to the same spot. He had a raft. They managed to salvage some of his precious collection, but they were pursued by Malayan pirates who promptly set fire to all of his collection, and it looked like everything was lost. But fortunately, he had sent a small duplicate collection on a previous voyage, and amongst that was a plant that was to become known later on as Abelia chinensis, one of the parents of all of these varieties. Now that was in 1817. Later on, in 1886, at the famous Rovelli Nurseries on the shores of Lake Maggiore in the beautiful Italian lakes area, the Rovelli brothers were growing all sorts of unusual shrubs and trees and plants that were used in the grand villas and homes of the Italian nobility and aristocrats that were gathering in that mild climate to grow in their gardens all sorts of unusual plants. Things like rhododendrons and azaleas, roses, magnolias, Japanese maples, and also some unusual shrubs like abelias. And there they hybridized two different Chinese species, Abelia chinensis and another one known as Abelia uniflora. Uniflora because it has solitary flowers. And like all good hybrids, it combines the merits of both parents to give the hardiness of uniflora and the beautiful dark green glossy foliage of chinensis. And that was the beginning of Abelia grandiflora, the parent that most of the varieties that we offer today within our region are descended from. Varieties like this lovely variety here from First Editions. This is Abelia Vanilla Brandy, gets to about 2 to 3 foot high, has this beautiful white and green variegated foliage, lovely red stems, a nice tight habit, and also fragrant flowers like the others. And if you want to find out more about this individual variety, check out the video that we have here on this channel. You'll be able to get chapter and verse and find out lots more about it as well. And then, just for the heck of it, let me finish off by showing you a couple of other varieties that you might like to know about. Take a look at this beautiful variety here called Brilliantina. Now this is interesting in that, as you see, this has a lovely crisp green and yellow variegation with young growth that comes out coloured, and then as we go into the autumn time starts to take on orangey red colouring too. It's a fairly vigorous variety. It will get a little bigger than some of the other ones I just showed you. Here's one that's going to grow about 3 to 4 foot high by about 4 to 5 foot wide, and as you see also has got the striking bright red stem and white fragrant flowers. It's one like all the others that can easily be trimmed to shape and to hold to a certain size in your garden, and that's something that we do here in the nursery. We call it cycle pruning. We go through constantly trimming and shaping so that we've got nice bushy well-grown plants that are ready to get off to a good start in your garden. Now this is a variety that turned up in the lower Rhine area in Germany. Clemens Kieser and his daughter Lena grow several varieties of Abelia, and I think, as you can see in this one, they've certainly struck gold with finding a very beautiful, nice, vigorous and very, very eye-catching variety. It's one that I think also you should certainly keep on your wish list and consider looking for a spot somewhere in your garden for it, whether it's a single specimen or a nice big bold group of them, or even growing this in containers too. This will look striking all through the whole of the summer and fall, because the roots are going to freeze in the container during the winter time. If you leave them outside, you need to bring the pot in, or else plunge the root in the ground like I do with several things that have tender roots. You plunge them in the ground and that will save them, and then you can lift them and bring them back, put them into the container again next year. Really lovely variety, definitely well worth keeping an eye on. Now also, let me say that if you're new to this channel and you haven't subscribed yet, I'd like to suggest that you think about doing so, because we're busy posting new videos like this one all the time. And when you're subscribed, you'll find that as we trial and test and bring you that information, those videos will turn up automatically in your feed. And of course, if you have some friends that you think would like to be able to enjoy this information too, then please feel free to share it with them. And of course, if you happen to like what we're telling you, it would be really great if you could hit the like icon too, because then that helps other people discover the information as well. And then last but not least is this little variety here that has been impressing us no end in our trials. This is Abelia Milky Way. And when you look at it closely, you'll see that this has a beautiful textural effect to its foliage. Again, a nice, crisp, bright variegation. But when you look closely at the foliage, you'll see that each of the leaves are kind of reflex. So when you look at it from a distance, they look like a series of little beads. Again, bright red stems and a pinkish colouring to the growth, and fragrant white flowers that of course will add immensely to the plant. This looks like it's going to be a little tighter and more compact growing. I would say this one will probably be about 2 to 3 foot high by about the same wide, and like all the others, it's very definitely something that you can easily trim and keep it within bounds. It's a variety that will change like the others through the season too, especially when we get into cooler weather. That's when the colouring on this is going to intensify. It's a variety that was found by Mark Griffith of Griffith Propagation Nursery in Watkinsville, Georgia. He found it somewhere before 2020, and as we've been growing it here in the nursery, we've been impressed with it because it, as you see, is nice and stable and very consistent. And also we've noticed that this variety tends not to throw reversionary shoots like some of the other varieties can sometimes. It might throw the odd green shoot every now and then, and we call that reversion. And if that happens on any of your plants, it's important to be able to prune that out, because The green part, of course, will grow quicker than the variegation. But with this variety, and watching it here through all the trials, we haven't really seen very much, if anything, on it. So that means that it's kind of impressed because it's more likely to stay the way it's supposed to. So this is Abelia Milky Way, a variety that we're keeping a very close eye on, and one that I think if you go along to some of our partnering garden centres and happen to see it there, might be one that you would think about putting in somewhere at the front of a bed or a border, somewhere where you're going to be able to grow and enjoy this plant through all of the seasons. So there you are. I hope you can see that Abelias and all of the lovely varieties that you can find at our partnering garden centres offer tremendous value, both in their habit of growth, their ease of culture, their beautiful variegated foliage, and these lovely fragrant flowers, and the fact that deer normally don't bother with them. I hope you can see that these really do offer tremendous value for us to be able to grow in our gardens. So when you're at home and you're enjoying growing these lovely plants in your garden, spare a thought for poor old Dr. Abel and James Hooper and all the other people that historically have a hand in bringing us these beautiful plants. This is David Wilson. Enjoy your gardening. It's good for us and it's good for our environment too.